This podcast is recorded on the traditional lands of the Boonwurrung and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders and acknowledge their connection to this land. There's no justice without First Nations justice. Welcome to Second City, a place where every week we'll be asking and trying to answer if the first city falls, how do we want to build a new life together in the second city? Hi, Lerna. Hi, Alex.
Hi,
Hello.
Alex.
Hi, my love.
Hello.
So this episode we're going to tackle healthcare and why so many of us are just toughing it out instead of getting the care that we need, and what we can do about it to fix this system. So I might just start with a little bit of a roundup of things that you know about healthcare, what works, what doesn't work when it comes to healthcare in Australia, and any sort of context that you want to bring to it, or any stories that you have about your experiences getting healthcare for yourself or your family. Who wants to go first?
Do you, Alex?
Look, I've got a million opinions on healthcare at kind of a personal level because I'm a legendary hypochondriac. And I love just panicking about everything and sort of
making spreadsheets. You have spreadsheets?
So many spreadsheets and over-medicalising and everything. I am also like in the weeds with it at work. We research people's experiences of it pretty deeply. So I feel people at a personal level when they say like healthcare is so expensive, it's so hard to get. You have to wait forever for an appointment and or you have to pay through the nose and it's a hassle to get to. And it feels like such a burden when you're already busy and you're already like time and money poor. You've just got this added thing. It's hostile, it feels. But Lerna, what do you reckon?
I agree. I think we might have spoken about Medicare before, but I don't know a single GP near where I live who bulk bills. And I know our GP, just a regular 15-minute consult is now $116. And if you are having, if you're a family or you're an individual and you've got, a health issue, a continuous health issue, that adds up and that needs to be addressed. I think that is a really, Australia is known for our universal health care, but I think based on evidence, that has kind of fallen out of the boat and that really doesn't exist anymore that I can see in practice. If you don't have private health insurance, you're on a wait list. You don't know when you're going to get tended to. So that puts your whole life on hold. You can't go away. You can't live. You can't do anything because you might get called up and you need to be there for your procedure. Then on the other side, private health insurance is just so expensive. And with every procedure, you're paying out of pocket as well. So there is no win-win. You just have to hope and pray, please don't get sick. So, and then that's not even including the mouth, as we've spoken about before. That's not even including mental health care, because good luck if you need to see someone regularly and a reputable, trained, holistic carer. It's just there aren't enough practitioners. Everyone who is working is rushed, is stressed off their feet. So the care's not there. The true, care that you deserve also has kind of fallen away as well. So the whole system is just, it's a real mess because everyone and everything is under so much stress. That is how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I sort of think about it in two frameworks. First of all, whether it's affordable for me to go and get, and second of all, whether I can get an appointment with what there is, and is there enough of those people around. And it seems that we have deficiencies on both sides. Both, even just a basic GP appointment has become unaffordable, so much so that, I don't know about you, but I almost never go to the GP for ordinary things. It's really only if it's, and even I remember, if I found a lump in my boob or something, and I would really have to think to myself, like, how serious am I about this? And I'll check it every day for a fortnight to make sure it's still there after 2 weeks, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's actually worth going to the doctors about. Which is a terrible situation to be in. Obviously, we should be taking action on anything that we find, or if we need some kind of healthcare. And then the other component is the pipeline into these sectors. So I know that, in the election campaign, I remember that we were talking about who are the bulk billing GPs in our electorate, and there were only 4 or so bulk billing GPs. And only 2 of those offered genuinely free GP for people over the age of 16. And so that there's 110 or so thousand people in an electorate. So there were 2 GPs for 110,000 people who offered genuinely free healthcare for adults in our whole area. And then just getting in to see those people. I remember when our eldest aged out of the 16-year-old genuinely free healthcare, and then it's a case of, now it's even more expensive again. But at the same time, how do you encourage people, and this was the other part of the conversation that I remember we were having, was even if you were to make GPs genuinely free, how do you make doctors offer bulk billed services at the price that the government's paying them to do that?
You can't.
You can't, right? So then that's the other part of the equation, and it's the same with dentists and all of those other healthcare providers, mental health care providers. How do you have an agreement with the provider that they will offer the service at the price that the government is willing to pay for the service for us all to have? How do you meet in the middle there?
Yeah.
Let alone specialists who, are like 10 times, like exorbitant amounts above the scheduled rate that the government is advising. Like that is like just the biggest rip-off that. And then, the whole system is just needs to be started all over again. That there's stress on the system, let alone poor nurses in hospitals who are run off their feet. That there's not enough hands on deck to give the services and provide what is needed to the community.
I've got so many thoughts running through my head about this, but I think there's nurses and they're generally overworked and underpaid, and you've got certain GPs that are also like really overworked and underpaid. You've got some specialists who are really in it for the right reasons and are, they've obviously got these massive waiting lists, but there is a class of specialist that is absolutely rapacious, I think. Like they charge usurious fees.
Wait, what does that word mean?
It means like usury
Off the chart, too expensive.
Sorry. Just exorbitant, right?
Yes, got it.
So, and I had this experience with my hysterectomy because I was like really ignorant about how any of this stuff worked. And I just assumed because I have this incredibly ridiculously expensive health cover that it would pay for the hysterectomy. And I had no idea, even though, to be fair, the doctor said, check our billing before you agree to everything. And I just thought, well, why? Like, I've got private health insurance. Like, it's obvious. But it's not obvious. And then I was so many thousands of dollars out of pocket.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And the amount, like, I know how much time they spent on me. And it just, it doesn't make sense. If you want to be like filthy, disgusting rich, go into banking. I don't believe in the old saying that if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Because if that were true, we wouldn't have any teachers. We wouldn't have any nurses, and we wouldn't have those doctors who really do like work their guts out for not much reward. We've got so many people who like what are all the unpaid carers who take care of their kids or take care of their parents or other loved ones. Are they monkeys because they don't get paid? Like, what a crazy way to look at things. So that's one rant. The other thing to observe is People in the research keep saying that care and profit do not go together and they're sick to death of it. And people are saying, like, every care sector that we've privatised has turned to shit. You look at childcare,
Yeah.
you look at aged care, and
Yeah.
the terrible things that go on, for our most vulnerable. And now you look at healthcare.
Yeah.
So there's my rant for the day.
Yeah, I hear you on that one, because it's not only they've gone to shit, but they are absolutely at risk of abuse. The childcare system news stories in recent months were beyond horrific. The aged care system, remember when they had the Royal Commission into aged care, and it was really appalling. Yeah. And I think that's true then too, isn't it, when you're disempowered in a medical situation?
Yes. And like there's all these stories now of when you're under anesthesia and what is
Oh God,
happening
Lerna.
and that is horrifying. Like it's terrifying.
What are
for
these
me,
stories now?
You know, like
What's
I think
happening?
there was one in the paper the other day about this poor guy whose phone, he was having a colonoscopy and his phone was recording everything that they were saying about
Oh
him
no.
during it. And
Yeah.
like he sued and he won, like, but it's horrific. It's like for me, it's like I don't want to ever have to be in that vulnerable setting ever again. Like it's just you are so vulnerable and you expect your caregivers to treat your body with respect. These stories terrify me. They're so
The
bad.
really high paid sectors don't attract the best and brightest. There is like a real misconception about what elite positions of power and very, very high pay tends to attract. And it's not someone who's out there for the greater good.
Yeah, like I've had cesarean, right? And I remember clearly, like I remember being during the cesarean, looking around. It's like a million people in the room. You've got, your one leg's going that way, your other leg's going that way. Everyone's having a nice show, and it's like, is it really necessary to have like this person there and that person there? It's you are vulnerable, and in that situation, the health system has to be sensitive to that. And I was awake then, and I clearly remember I was so angry, and I couldn't do anything about it.
It sounds like there must be so many people who have medical trauma experiences, either from having an abusive situation, from a situation where they feel disempowered and incredibly vulnerable, and even situations of a lack of access because of affordability or whatever other reason. Yeah.
And then when you think about like those poor people in aged care, it's just those stories just bring me to tears. It's, as you said, disempowerment and vulnerability. In these situations, there has to be really strong regulation, has to be, you have psychological testing to go and work for corporations and things. Surely, if you're going to go into this healthcare setting as a career, there should be like a minimum requirement of what kind of a person you are before you go down this path as a career.
There's no way to screen for the psychopaths properly, right? Like,
Well, there should
if you're
be.
smart enough, I know, I wish, right? But like, this is why we need robust systems and different incentives.
Yes.
And so what does that look like? How did we get to this situation, and how do we get out of this situation? What are those incentives, Alex? What does that look like, do you think?
So the first thing is not to treat doctors like gods and rock stars, and not to assume that they are like untouchable repositories of wisdom. Like, they have expertise, and that expertise should be sort of respected, because we see in America, for example, what happens when you start to go down the anti-science route. God forbid, I'm not talking about that. But again, like, the incentives at the moment are really skewed towards rewarding a type of person who gets off on extreme kind of wealth and power. And there are all those Four Corners episodes about the terrible abuses that happen with charging patients for unnecessary surgery, or doing other terrible things to patients. And if you took that kind of really high pay incentive out of it, That would be the first thing. The the second thing is it does need to be publicly funded, right? So we've been indoctrinated to believe that choice is the most important thing, and that if you're willing to pay, you'll get something better. But like, think about it. What does that mean? It means you get an increasingly unequal health system. If very, very rich people had to have the same level of healthcare as very, very poor people, everyone's healthcare gets really, really good.
Right, I
Yeah,
see what you're
like
saying. Yeah.
schooling. If everyone has to go to the same public school, it lifts up the standard and the quality of everyone's school.
And I don't think choice should be limited. I just don't think choice should be predicated on whether you can pay for it. I
Yeah.
think train more doctors, bring in more doctors from other countries if we have to, which is problematic in and of itself because of brain drains. Let's not go down that path. But like, properly, adequately fund the healthcare system so that, and the education system, so that we've got the doctors, the health professionals across the board that we need. And then give people the choice about who they see. And if a doctor is problematic, then you find another doctor, and you need really robust oversight systems. Part of the problem is our oversight systems are not sufficiently robust.
And what do you think is the impact of having, because whenever I think about this, I think about it, well, what's the pipeline into these professions for people then? Some of these pipelines are very lengthy and very expensive. So how is that impacted then by what's happening in our university system, right? So is there a way that we can make the pipeline easier and smoother for these industries that we need more and better people in?
Well, part of the pipeline is funneling private school kids into elite universities, into these really high paying specialties, right? Like it, the reform can't just be in one sector. We need kind of this wholesale or this holistic thinking around, why do things not work? Why does a certain class of person get everything and another class of person get nothing in what is one of the richest countries on earth?
Yeah, yeah. And I think sometimes we forget that. We forget that we have, as beneficiaries of this incredible nation compared with other nations, and I'm thinking of the US, of course, in this instance, but even the UK, other nations where they have, or every other non-Scandinavian country on earth, yeah, how much more we can lift our expectations of what we receive as taxpayers here. And I think we've been trained to expect so little and to have to pay so much. And also it's been a little bit frog in the boiling pot, hasn't it? I feel like
Exactly.
over time it's just gotten harder and harder and harder. And because health isn't something most of us, if we're lucky, have to engage with all the time. But as soon as you do, suddenly it's everything, isn't it? Suddenly having a good system is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, as Alex said, I was thinking to myself as well, it starts from education and equal access to everybody to any career, any pathway, which I really don't think that is the model right now.
And
Yeah.
studying medicine is hard, right? So if you don't have family support, if you don't already come from a relatively well-off, wealthy family, how are you going to get the marks to get in, especially if you're not going to private school? And then how are you going to be able to devote yourself to your studies sufficiently
Yeah.
without some sort of support? We need to reimagine what the state needs to do for us, because, what are we all working so freaking hard for?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like almost like how the government introduced placement, like payments for placements for certain uni students. I think it was last year. You know, a lot of students need to work to support themselves. If you're going to be doing, if you're going to take on 10 years really to get to some specialty or whatever, you need to be working at the same time. If you don't have family support or anything like that to support you, to keep you going, you can forget about that pathway because it's impossible. And that's a reality for the majority of people. You're looking at, okay, if it's like a 3-year course, yep, I can find a way to get myself through these 3 years, juggling my part-time jobs somehow. But anything longer than that, it's impossible. You can't. You cannot sustain that. You can't live.
Luna, you mentioned earlier talking about healthcare seems to stop at our neck, right? So, like,
Yes.
dental is not included in Medicare. Mental health care is not included in Medicare. I'm at the moment in a. It seems to be a battle of all eternity, trying to get Medicare to rebate me for my son's psychology appointments, which costs about $295, right? And I'm supposed to be rebated $100 and something, $160 of that from Medicare. But somehow that has not occurred because he's over the age of 16 now, and so he is his own independent human, and it's rebated it into the ether of him, not the ether of me. I can't find this money anywhere.
Oh,
it's like
shit.
it's not, yeah. So over the course of 10 sessions, that's a lot of money, right?
So see again, why make
Yeah.
it so complicated?
Right.
Surely there's a system where once your child turns 16, that it moves over or whatever it does so easy, and you're not grappling in the wherever in trying to find this money.
Yeah.
Something as simple as that.
Well, and we ran out of sessions after 6, and so the 7th session I have to pay the entire cost because I hadn't realised that we'd gotten to the end of the 6 and I hadn't gone back to the GP to get another 4 to get to the total 10 that you get. You know how you get 10 sessions on a mental health care plan. And now, so we have to do a telehealth appointment for the next 4, but I still have to pay out of pocket for the one that we accidentally missed in between. And it's just like I have times in my life where every dollar counts, and this is not all the time, but it happens. It happens these days when you get a bunch of bills at one time and you're suddenly out of pocket. And I think these are the sorts of moments in life where I would just say, oh man, I'm sorry, kid. How sick are you?
Oh, God.
Maybe you and I can just work our way through this. Last Monday I went to the funeral of a 13-year-old girl who couldn't work her way through it. And I feel...
Sonia.
Right, and I feel... and I raised that knowing that that girl's parents want to speak about it and want to talk about it. And we need to talk about it as a community if we're in a mental health crisis of young people. Then all of these access points to care. And mental health care is just one of the kinds of care that our kids need. Dental is the other thing. Thank goodness the school still has the dental bus coming on. My kids would be in diabolical shape. So removing the obstacles of the degrees of difficulty to get care. Do we know any nation that's doing it better? Who's doing a good job of this?
Just before we get there, right? The bureaucracy that makes everything so fucking difficult and makes our lives miserable and, also makes practitioners' lives miserable as well. It's really expensive. It's actually much more expensive to keep checking whether
The cost
this
of papal
person's eligible.
chaperoning. Yeah,
This person's
truly.
eligible means testing that person, We could redirect this money on making sure that it only gets to the most deserving, right? And then everybody gets it. And then everyone has a level of care that's decent.
So we just say universal health care for everybody regardless. And that is just our basic assumption. And we go from there.
And, as we've discussed previously, we do need to get the tax base in order, but there is so much money in this country. We just let it accumulate with a smaller and smaller group that includes major multinationals who keep jacking their prices up for us, and it's and also particularly the fossil fuel companies, and it's just ridiculous.
Don't forget submarine programs.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
They're mythical. I don't believe in those.
Never going to see. It's like, hello, you've got the money, put it to something that we can all benefit from. It's like, seriously, is this where you're putting your money?
Or like we were saying in the episode around getting our tax base in order, right? Which was tax wealth, not work. Stop taxing our hard work so much and start taxing extreme wealth. Because money makes money. So
That's right.
that money is making more money than I could earn in my lifetime, working as hard as I do to provide for my family. So yeah,
Exactly.
tax
And
system in order. Yep. Sorry,
and
Alex, you go.
and let's say we're being John Howard style economic rationalists, and there was nothing rational about it, and it's actually been thoroughly debunked by every serious economist. This idea of trickle down economics, nothing fucking trickles down; it all trickles up, or it flows up, pumps up. Um, but it's actually incredibly expensive to nickel and dime health and welfare to this extent. Where do you reckon sick people wind up? Sick people wind up in really expensive hospital settings, in ICUs that cost unimaginable amounts that if you just spent a tiny bit on prevention, you could avoid. They wind up in our jails that cost a fortune. They wind up costing ordinary people so much through crime, through trauma, through all sorts of things that impact on productivity. Let's be really hard nosed and very serious about this because this is, for some reason, the only language that people in power seem to understand. But I'll tell you, ordinary people understand that there's actually a lot more at stake than just the dollars and cents, right? It's a bloody complex system that we live in. And if you just narrow focus on one little thing and the nickel and dime of that, then you miss the bigger picture and you get a lot poorer as a country.
I, you're right. Average people understand this. I ran into I think she was an obstetrician at the dog park, who told me that if Australia wanted to save money, it would give childbirth aged women and people who might have babies dental care, because the most expensive cost on the medical system was gum disease causing preeclampsia,
Oh, Jesus.
right? Which was having an impact on the entire healthcare system because of the expense of keeping women in hospital for their entire gestation of a baby. Um, yeah, and that was the best bang for buck that that person had ever discovered. I think they'd written an article about it for
Oh my
Crikey
God.
or something. They were trying to, they were like evangelical about it. Yeah, it's just at the dog park. So yeah, talk to people at the dog park. Very interesting.
I've heard of talking to people.
I
It
know,
sounds like a
it's
good
a whole
thing.
thing. I know.
It's
Always.
interesting.
You're up for it.
It's interesting you said that, Sonia, because yesterday I saw, I think it was on Blue Sky or something, the leader of Panama, and
yeah.
she was this woman who, she was saying, my role now as a leader is, okay, personally she was a mother and a grandmother, and so she was there to care for the children, but as the leader of the country, her role was to care for all the children of the country, which involved making sure mothers, maternal, had good access to dental care and everything. So yeah, I saw that yesterday, and she mentioned maternal dental care was as important.
The flow on of
That's
dental, I
amazing.
think we
Yeah.
don't even know what the
I have
flow
to
on of
see.
dental is going to be.
She was,
Yeah, like
she was, I don't know who the Prime Minister or the President of Panama is, but I
Yeah.
I'm
know she
going
was,
down a freaking
no,
rabbit
I'm
hole
going to
after
Google
this.
this lady.
no.
Yeah, because I know that poor dental health is connected with increased risk of stroke, heart disease, all
Yes.
sorts of medical
Yes.
conditions that are connected to, and even I think they even found evidence of gum disease in people with Alzheimer's.
Yeah, because you get
Yeah,
increased
that's
inflammation
right.
in your body,
Yeah.
and that has that knock-on effect where your body is fighting
Yeah.
against the inflammation.
Yes.
So, Sonia, you asked before, where are they doing things better, right? And like, I think we reflexively always go, the Scandinavian countries, and they, I'm sure, doing it better. I know Germany was doing really cool things, like giving people like this free kind of, like, not psychiatric as in lock them up and medicate them, but like these respites that you're very stressed, you're about to have a big depression. Before you do, you just go there for free and you have a relax for a week and you talk to some counselors and then you come out and you're really fucking productive afterwards.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so but an example I was just reminded of from what Lerner was saying is Mexico, Claudia Scheinbaum, right?
I love her.
So
We talked about Mexico last time.
right? So I'm not very au fait with the Mexican healthcare system, but what I do know is that all the very, very serious political commentators were saying, um, you know, through all the recent elections globally that, no incumbent government has been returned anywhere. None. Yeah, well, they were in Mexico.
Hmm.
Why? Because the guy before Scheinbaum, Obrador, he did this massive reformation of the country and lifted people out of poverty at this unimaginable scale. And Claudia Scheinbaum is his protege, and she is just taking that to the next level and really making like a true welfare state. And it's not that, people are too lazy to work,
Mm.
not that sort of welfare state, the sort of state that takes care of its people so that they can go and live happy, joyous, productive, fulfilled lives.
Yeah. We need to rebrand this idea of welfare as well-being. A
Yes.
Yeah.
well-being nation, right? A nation, a caregiving, well-being nation that says that you as a human are so valuable to us that your best and healthiest self is what we need to contribute to our future. I also read that in Mexico that violent crime in Mexico City had dropped by over 28%, knife crime and
Yeah,
gun
right.
crime, because of the lift of people out of poverty. And so if we talk about, I know security and crime is such a big issue always at election time here and increasing in our streets. Well, maybe good healthcare is a part of that story too.
And people recognize that in the research. Like, you know, everyday Aussies, they get it. That, kids who fall through the cracks, like, stuff happens. Bad stuff happens. And you can try to put a band-aid on it by locking them up, which is horrible on many levels. But again, you know, if you want to be John Howard, think about, apart from the expense, the excellent criminal training they're getting in
In prison, that's it.
in
Yeah.
Yeah,
institutions, right?
yeah.
But like, I also I don't want welfare to be a dirty word. I want us to get away from this robo-debt bizarre conception that human beings who need help are somehow trying to rort the system or they're dishonest. None of the statistics backs it up, for
Yeah.
one thing, right? Um, and it turns into this really toxic thing of trying to like make sure someone's really truly deserving. And most people are honest. You've got a really small proportion, the research says, of people who are genuine assholes. And they wind up in two places, these assholes. The research is solid on this. They wind up either in prison or they wind up as CEOs or
Yeah.
politicians,
Yeah.
right? The smart and lucky ones and the ones who come from very wealthy families stay out of prison, but then they rule over the rest of us. And the whole second city conception is how normies like us push back against people like them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, as you
Yeah.
said, as the second city rule should be, you know how you say you should judge a society by how they treat their most vulnerable. That is your guiding light for your second city. And that is what you
Fuck yeah.
plan your whole society around, where, from housing to health to education, social services. How do we treat our vulnerable? And then everything flows on from there. So again, it's a holistic action.
I love
And
that
massive
so much.
innovation comes from public funding. The internet is a government funded thing. It would never have been created if, Elon Musk had been in charge of stuff.
Mm.
Um, all the really big things you actually need government to pay for, believe it or
Yeah.
not. And we've been sold this thing that, government is always inefficient. But that's a trick that the massive corporations and very wealthy and a few really dumbass economists have tried to sell us, but it's not true. Private enterprise is not good for things like building roads and then
Mm.
deciding that some people have to pay through the nose if they want to use a decent road. It's not good at like mass education, mass health, the big expensive things all of us need to
Yeah.
pay for. And
Or
by
any
all
of
of us,
those care sectors, right?
It's not good
right?
for any of our essential things.
And
anything
I
that
don't mean by raising taxes on us. I mean by
no,
raising taxes on our resources because we live in this really wealthy country.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So it sounds like we need to get sociopaths out of leadership and prison.
Now keep
Those
the
two
sociopaths in prison.
twin
I'm okay with that.
pathways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back to public ownership of essential services. I think that is just a given from all the evidence we've seen. Health, education, the services that we need to keep us healthy and thriving cannot be run by for-profit organisations. It's an oxymoron
That's it.
that it just does not work. You cannot have these services making profit.
It's like you're sitting in my groups with me. That's what everyone says in the groups. All ordinary Australians believe this.
Important point, because my next question is about what I hear echoed around is that there's a real loss of faith in the institution of government and a loss of faith and belief in the government's ability to do and execute anything well, and that they think that so that people are angry at this perceived, the dole bludger lie furphy thing, but also the bludgery that happens in government, that they're all just living off the fat of the land and doing nothing for it in return. And there's probably truth in some of that for some of those people that are there. But how do you restore community faith then in government to do anything, or restore government to a situation where it can do something useful, that it can actually build a health system that is really a system we can live well with?
Yeah. So it's both a revoltingly simple and incredibly complicated answer, which is like actions, not words, right?
Yeah.
People will trust when they start receiving decent
Yeah.
care. Our
Yeah.
problem is that our current crop of politicians, most of them, not all, but most, care much more about what people who are more powerful than them think. They care more about, say, like big business. They care more about where their next job is going to be once they get booted out of politics. They care about what the media says about them. They don't care enough about what ordinary people think. If they did, we'd be having a really different conversation.
I don't
But
understand that at all. Where are the visionaries, Even Whitlam had a plan, right?
well, Whitlam was a long time ago.
Yeah.
They've selected for a really different type of person now.
Yeah.
But, remember the 3.5% rule.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that many of us working together to affect real, genuine change. And we're actually really lucky with the electoral system that it's not that hard to boot an asshole out of their lower house seat if they're not worried about what ordinary people are going through, if they're too worried about big business. It's not hard. It can be done. I can help.
True, good point. Yeah. All right, let's talk about healthcare by the individual experiences of people of different ages and genders. How do men get a raw deal? How do women get a raw deal? What about kids and young people? What about older people? What do you think? Anything come to mind for you, Lona?
This could go for an hour.
I know.
Well,
Yeah.
just quickly, so like for kids, once they hit 18, they have their privacy, and parents cannot help them with their medical stuff. So even if your kid needs to go get an X-ray or something, they have to go and do it themselves, and then they get the results themselves. They have to follow up on the results if the GP doesn't call them back for the results. And a lot of times, a lot of the medical profession don't really have a lot of respect for this patient. So that's one thing that needs to change. How can an 18-year-old learn to advocate for themselves, to be able to ask the questions that they need to ask when they receive results, and when they're not getting results, how to follow up to get those results? Because like an adult has problems doing that, let alone an 18-year-old or 19-year-old. So that's one problem that I have seen. The second, I know we've talked about it before, is how women are not taken seriously when they go to the doctor with their issues and their complaints. You know, you're fobbed off. It's like, oh, yeah, that's just the way it is. Yeah, it's probably your period. Yeah, it's probably your hormones. Meanwhile, you know, you've probably got a brain tumor. But, yeah, you know, well, and then, you know, a year later, oh, sorry, we didn't detect it and you've got 2 weeks to live. You know, there's that we've it's been in the news a lot. It's been on socials a lot lately. That is a major
medical misogyny is a thing, that's for sure.
Like, I could go on for literal hours about medical misogyny. And, you know, if my mum weren't the fightiest fighter of all fighters, she would have died of breast cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because she was dismissed as well. So, yeah, so I could speak for hours about that. But I also just want to mention, like, men get a shit deal from all of this too, because like I've spoken for the research to so many men about men's health, and they're expected to tough it out, and they put so much pressure on themselves as well to, you know, that they feel the obligation to be, you know, the breadwinner or the protector of their family. They've got, you know, so many obligations and social pressures not to be vulnerable, and then things can get out of hand. And men, like, I hope the people I've spoken to are representative, and I think they are. Australian men are amazing in how they're coming to realise this, and to see that their families who rely on them so much need them to be okay for their family, so they need to be able to ask for help. So this is like a little ray of hope that I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's hard to ask for help, and it's hard to prioritize yourself enough to ask for help. I notice that especially as a parent, that everybody else comes first.
Yeah.
Economically, in every sort of emotional priority of a sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Sonia? Your experiences or what you would like to add?
I mean, I just find it administratively really difficult to make the time and space. And I almost feel like I'm the sort of personality where I'm very much in the moment. I find it really hard to book appointments. I find it really hard to say at a future that is unknown how I will think, feel, or be able to afford to be able to dedicate time in the future to do things. And I often think that might be a somewhat neurospicy experience of mine. I don't know. But yeah, even just having, you know, I think about, I had to take 3 days off work next week just to do life admin, you know, like to call Medicare to get to the bottom of this missing $1,500, right? Because I need it to pay for my car insurance. And just to do the admin of personal health. It's really only when something frightens me that I will spring to action with enough sort of oomph to get through the cognitive obstacles to do it. And I don't know, if that is anything a system can fix or if that's just a personality obstacle with that sort of administrative stuff, or if I've just had just enough experiences that I don't like, that it makes it not something I really want to engage with. Yeah.
It's so much more difficult than it needs to be.
Yes. And like you were saying, Sonia, you think, okay, well, I just Google it now. I go, okay, can I fix this myself? What does Dr. Google say? So what could it be? Can I fix it myself? Can I really not have to go to the doctors for this?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it something simple? Is it just, I need more water to drink or?
Yes, always. Always. You dehydrated lady.
And you're a scientist, so you actually have this background knowledge. You can get away with it.
Yeah. Because again, like it's like just say something happens and it's like, I have to make a doctor's appointment. It's like, I can't get in to see the doctor that I want. They're not available for 2 months. I don't even know this person. No, it's too hard. Don't worry about it. I'll just sort it out myself.
I've had stuck to the fridge like those blood test things for iron deficiency and like a bone scan for like so long that they're no longer even usable. Like, done.
My GP's on my back like every time I go for like a script refill,
Yeah.
like, why haven't you had your mammogram?
Oh my
Why haven't you
gosh.
had your cholesterol? And
That's
it's been,
great.
and I keep saying like work, which is kind of true. It's not really, because work would absolutely, of course, give me time
It's
off to do it.
life.
It's life. Yeah.
It's just it's just
I
the thought
know.
of how, when, like, how do I fit it all in? It's all
Yeah.
complicated, and then my
Too
boob
hard.
gets smushed, and
Yeah. I know. I know.
Like it's
Yucky.
almost like you have so much on your plate anyway, just with your
Yes.
regular life. It's like you don't have the headspace or
yeah.
the
Yeah.
time to. It's actually more, I think, the headspace. I just cannot squish that in as well to try and coordinate that.
Yeah.
So what does the Australian healthcare landscape look like if we've waved the magic wand? Like, how how can it be made good and easy and not like
Super
a financial
local,
burden?
free, great care. Like, I think we're sort of close in some ways. I really like my son's doctor. She's amazing. I like forget we're not friends. She's so great, so it's possible to have this, a positive relationship with someone, a reduction of all of those obstacles that are paperworky and horrible and stressful that create like I feel like I failed before I even get there because I know can't get that friggin' Medicare thing sorted or whatever.
Yeah, I think if our tax system worked well, there would be like really good payment for all our healthcare professionals. So they don't need to go seeking exorbitant salaries. And then when I think once people are, the salary range and the reason why you go into this career, that then in the education system weeds out people so that they're going into it for the true purpose of why you should be going into any healthcare setting as a career. If you want to make money, go into something else. The health system is not going to make you a millionaire. I think so and then everything is government funded, so everyone you don't pay, or you pay very, very minimal amount that is affordable to everybody. That way, it makes the system equal to everybody.
And if you want to be a first city really, really rich person, and this country isn't making it easy for you to become a billionaire off the backs of other people's hard work, then like there's always America. There's
Yeah.
always Russia. There's always like the places where,
Oligarch havens. Yeah.
right? Like where if you're really determined to be like ultra wealthy and you don't care who you hurt, there are places you can go. But most Aussies that I speak to don't want that here.
No. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, I know we've spoken about it before. In the second city, your most well-respected and well-paid jobs should be those that take care of the human and of society. It's not profit-driven. It's not money. It is for community. What can we do to make our community and our society healthy in every respect?
Yeah.
And so then, whether it's your teachers, your childcare workers, your nurses, specialists, health providers, they are vital to keep society healthy, and they're the ones who are the most respected and well-paid occupations.
Yeah. Yeah. And to declutter the noise in the rest of life so that we have the brain space to look after ourselves. And I realise that is a very big whole of system, whole of life experience thing. But
Yes.
it to me, I think that's where it's at. Like, as a silly example, this morning I picked up a box of vegetables, which we've bought as a community co-op to buy fresh veggies together at cheaper prices from a market. And I brought the box home and I just thought, this is a great idea, but I don't have the time to wash my potatoes and carrots. And then I thought, maybe I should. Maybe we should have the kind of life where you have the time to wash potatoes and carrots in a community co-op. And maybe that should be my priority.
Yeah,
Making the kind of world.
and slow down.
down.
Yes,
To have the
slowing
kind of
down.
world where I can take the time to check a bump or a
But
lump.
that whole rushing is what is
Yeah.
causing us all our,
Our stress
because
anyway.
disease.
Yeah.
If you think of the word disease, you're in dis ease. You are not in ease. You are not at ease, which is what life is causing.
So that's
Life
second
and the
city.
rush. Yes, is slow down.
Slow down, ease. The ease of the second city. Oh, I like this. This is good.
So that it does not lead to disease.
Disease. Genius.
And you
See?
sit with the people you love and have a drink.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yes,
have a
please.
chat.
Yeah.
Slow down.
Good chat, ladies.
Yes.
We should finish
I'll hit
up.
stop.
Yeah.